Welcome back to the Blindsiders. I am Ben here with Dylan and Brian. Talk about episode number 4 of Survivor 50 and the exit, I guess, of Mike White, which I think was a little bit surprising to all of us. I came in with like the thought in the back of my head that something like this might happen, but definitely was like more braced for an Angelina boot again.
Listen, people apparently hate this episode. I checked the IMDb rating for it. We were high 8s. I think at one point the premiere was like a low 9 on IMDb, and you can't really judge how Survivor's going based on IMDb scores. But you know, when you're someone who lived through the recession like I am, IMDb plays a big role in my life. I don't know what that means, but it does. It currently has like a 4.2 on IMDb, which I believe is one of the lowest scores for any recent Survivor episode, which I think is absolutely absurd. As we've learned with Survivor fans, there's 2 extremes. There's no in the middle. There is either that was the worst episode ever, or it was the best episode ever. It's the worst season ever. It's the best season ever. People hated it, which was very unfortunate because I thought the last 30 minutes with everything going on with that tribe and Christian and Mike White and Angelina and kind of the David versus Goliath sequel, I think that it was fantastic. I think it was one of the best scrambles we've got recently in Survivor. I think that Christian and his storyline for this season is really it's surprising how much of a main character Christian is, and I hope it's not just because he's on these disaster tribes. And that's a whole nother issue that we can talk about with this episode in the format. But I don't mind Zach Brown. I thought it was a great episode. I am very, very sad that Mike White is gone. I really am, because I think that we got a glimpse of how great of a player he is.
Yeah. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was also very disappointed to see Mike White go. I was pretty indifferent to Zach Brown. It didn't affect it positively or negatively for me at all. I thought that it was nice that they actually gave them a reward that was like decent in the new era. That has been a complaint of mine, and a complaint of probably all of us on this one. Don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's the best reward ever, but Coach knows what the producers are looking for. So he's going to be saying stuff like that. Also, I guess suck it, Jack and Jill reward from South Pacific. You've been dethroned. But yeah, no, I thought it was a really good episode. I thought it was so interesting that Mike's attempt to save Angelina ended up being his own undoing, because if he had just let it happen, I think Mike probably goes pretty far in this game.
Yeah, I think it's tricky, because, I mean, this tribe is going back to Tribal Council next round regardless. I think we can all agree on that. So what happens when they go back to Tribal Council if Angelina is gone? Like, is your thought like, Stephanie goes? Is like,
Yeah,
and then,
Stephanie probably goes.
Yeah, but then I don't know. I feel like Mike's just kind of like at the whim of Christian at that point, and Christian and or Emily picking him over Ozzy. Maybe after Stephanie goes, he has Ozzy. If Ozzy has the idol, the vote's probably gonna end up on him, right? I don't know. I just don't. I don't necessarily see it. I think this tribe is going to Tribal Council probably 2 more times before merge. So I think that trying to save Angelina was probably the correct play. I think that he just didn't do it in a great way. Yeah.
I mean, he said it himself in his Entertainment Weekly interview that he overestimated his friendship outside the game that he had with Christian. And clearly it affected what was going on inside the game itself. For Mike, I understand wanting to save your ally, but little did he know that having the White Lotus in his back pocket, which he did not have last time he played I think may actually give him some sort of longevity on the island that he could have played a little bit longer than sticking to Angelina. And it seems like apparently there has been bad blood between that trio since, more so of Mike and Angelina to Christian. I do know, I didn't see it, but apparently there was a bit of Angelina going at Christian or some sort of back and forth on social media. I don't know if it was before the season or or when the season first started. Mike White in his interview with Entertainment Weekly with Dalton Ross, who once again, I am a massive Dalton Ross fan after his appearance on Tyson's pod. Dalton Ross, he basically said that Mike White has not talked to Christian at all since they filmed this. So take that for what you will too, because I think they've done quite a bit of media. This is like an incredibly nuanced vote too, which is why I'm pretty bummed that people are not loving the episode because of the Zach Brown stuff. Because I do think that for somebody that was in as good of a situation as Christian was, I think that he was in very much almost a lose-lose situation for what his game was at before this tribe swap to what it's going to be after. So I'm both nervous for Christian. I'm sad Mike White's gone. I think that Mike did the proper move for his game, but clearly maybe just letting Angelina go was the right move, because to your point, Ben, Angelina could very well just be easily gone when we're sitting here next week. I'm a little bit more concerned of what the outlook is going to be for Christian, and especially with Emily now. Emily's a wild card, right? I think that we're going to get into some Emily talk here, because I think we have different opinions on the game that Emily's playing. But regardless, Emily is a complete wild card to Christian's game at this point. And that is really, and I think that highlighting the stuff with Gabby from David versus Goliath, I think that is going to be a story, a point in the story that we're going to get with Christian later on. That is, can he overcome that with Emily, or is it going to be the undoing of him again? That's why I think that the final 30 minutes of this episode is going to have a huge impact on the rest of the season. And I wish people would focus more on that than what I thought was just a fine thing with Zach Brown.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is why I think a lot of the Emily discourse is very strange to me, and like maybe I'm biased, you know. I'm the like Emily stan, right? Like I was like a fan of Emily from minute one of season 45 when everyone hated her episode 1, and then you know I was like the hipster when everyone was like getting on board with her episode 2, 3, 4. But like I think Emily's playing the best game of the season so far. I don't know like if that's like a crazy thing to say. I think the editing is not doing a lot of favors to her, and probably is indicative that it's not going to work out. But because so much of the game so far is filtered through Christian's perspective, the things that Emily is kind of doing to like lightly undermine Christian and create like this positional opening for herself are being like played in the story as like, you know, she's being messy. She's being like, you know, she's not like being a good ally, I guess, to Christian is like the easiest way to put it. But like, it's not your job on Survivor to be a good ally to your allies. In fact, generally, the person who succeeds the best at Survivor is the one who has the most allies. Like being a good Survivor is kind of like being a parasite in terms of your alliances. You want to take as much from your allies as possible while giving as little back. And that's kind of what Emily is doing right now with Christian, where she's being like very parasitic towards him as an ally. And because a lot of the narrative that we're getting is via Christian's POV, that's being painted negatively, and it's being painted as like bad gameplay, when in fact it's only bad gameplay for Christian. It's not bad gameplay for her, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys have a counter to this.
I get what you're saying. I think I do think you're being maybe a little bit too biased with Emily. And as someone who drafted Emily and someone whose team had 4 people going to tribal tonight and somehow managed to leave with 4 of them coming back out of tribal, I think that, I mean, we can only go off of what we're seeing in the show, right? Yeah. What we're seeing in edits so far. And once again, I talk about edit. Shout out Scott, where he's not going to be listening to this until next week. Our viewer, Scott, he always makes fun of me for always referencing the edit. I think Emily is playing messy, and I also get the impression that Emily is almost maybe a little bit too starstruck to be out there with the likes of Angelina and Ozzy and all that. And that's my opinion, obviously. I don't mean that as any disrespect to Emily at all. I love Emily. Once again, I drafted Emily very, very high. I think that Emily had the capability to go very far in this season. I'm less so convinced of that now. And whether it's because of what I just said of her being a little bit too starstruck with someone having some Survivor greats with her. Because once again, Emily only played very, very recently. And I know Emily has now been exposed to the Survivor player community for a while now. So maybe that's not fair to me to say. But I agree with you that when you play Survivor, you don't know anybody anything. Like, you should play Survivor the way that you want to play it. I just don't see how what she has done to this point has been beneficial at all to her or Christian. And I think that obviously you should look out for number one when you play Survivor. Like, if you want to win, I agree. You need to look out for yourself. But I don't think that she's really doing that here. I think Emily is kind of wants to be the person that is liked by all these players that people can feel comfortable to, which can have its advantage. But I think when you see now that she has put Christian in two troublesome situations back to back and kind of blown up his game, and I think that he should have thought through a little bit more this vote of, is Emily somebody that he is going to be able to maintain for himself? And then, once again, this is viewing at it then from Christian's point of view, right? Because clearly that Christian has been the main character of this season up until this point. It's been Christian's show. It's been Christian's story. And we've gotten some really great side plots too that I'm very excited to start exploring in other episodes. But I think that Christian ended up taking Emily and wanting to save Emily for whatever reasons. Maybe it is because of that Gabby comparison. And I think maybe Mike was right, even though I think he could have been maybe a little bit nicer about it and less blunt. I think that Christian is now alienating more people to keep Emily around than he would have to just get rid of Emily, right? And obviously his concern was likely going to be Suri and Rick, and when we get back to merge of saving face with them. But I think he's now had two very, very clear examples where Emily can't be trusted, and he's still choosing to go with that. And I don't know if it's because he wanted to keep Emily or he more so felt completely scorned by Mike and wanted to get rid of him. I think that maybe both could have been true, but it created a very riveting 30 minutes of TV.
Yeah, I definitely do think he is a little pigeonholed into having to work with Emily because of the potential bad look that it would be to roll into a challenge without her when there are other people to vote off. And Suri and Rick would probably be like, wait, what the hell, why did Christian vote Emily off? I thought we were all together. So I think we're gonna have to see. I think if I was in Christian's position, I would be very frustrated with Emily. But I don't know, Christian, this was like his line in the sand moment where he's either going to go with the David versus Goliath alliance, which I don't know if that would have been great for him, or he's going to stick with what he had been working on this whole time with Ozzy, Emily, Suri, and Devins. But I do think that not including Ozzy, and obviously we don't know, I think you could have probably strong-armed Ozzy into voting Mike off, but he also seemingly was very pro having Mike there. So I don't know, maybe not, but not a great episode for Ozzy. Actually, a very classic episode for Ozzy, going out fishing, not being looped in on the vote, and then being pissed off about it. And it's like, well, where were you all afternoon?
Turns out Oscar is dead. Ozzy has returned.
Ozzy's back.
It's about proximity to Suri, I think, is what we can really come to conclusion with in total for a lot of these people. Is with Ozzy, the longer he's now spending time away from Suri, the less good he's playing. So
I mean, that's so real. When he went off and then it just kept cutting back to him just by himself, I was like, oh, this is not great. Yeah, but this is Ozzy. This is who we, thought he was. You can only pretend to be someone you aren't on Survivor for so long.
I think it's the one move that Christian made 100% right, was excluding Ozzy. I think that because it was made very clear It was told that Ozzy wanted to get closer to Mike. I mean, he basically said it bluntly to Mike that he wanted to get rid of Angelina. I think that Christian, no matter what, had to isolate Ozzy, and I think it is what it isn't for Ozzy's situation. I think Ozzy is very lucky that the target was not on his back at all during these votes. I never got the impression that Christian wanted to work with the David versus Goliath crew. Not at all from what we've seen in this season. Not at all when he got to that tribe. I know that it could have been a useful tool to him, and maybe there was a confessional that I missed that he was happy about being back with David versus Goliath, but I never got the impression that he was as happy about it as maybe Mike and Angelina were to be together.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably why I was a little bit more surprised that we saw him considering Emily more than maybe a little bit more than he actually was. And I think it's probably why Mike was a little bit more surprised that he could not. That I think that he went to Christian as a friend, not as a fellow tribe mate with the Gabby thing. And I think Christian took that the wrong way.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when we have these returning player seasons. Like, how often do people join up with people from their original season when they weren't like on the same tribe or working with each other? I honestly don't think that often, right? And Ben, I'm sure you can help me here, but like going through all of it, like Jenna on Pagong, Rudy on Tagi, Jenna votes Rudy off pretty early there. Really in that season, I guess Amber and Alicia were on opposite tribes on Australia and worked together for a lot of that game. But I think it's very rare to see like just being from the same season working out as like a Survivor new alliance. You know what I mean? When it's people from the same alliance, then it's way more likely that they'll work together again.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of examples, I guess. And nothing's really like super crossing my mind, because like a lot of the time returnees tend to come from the same tribe,
alliance,
the same seasons. Yeah. Like you have like, 3 out of the 4 Cagayan returnees on Cambodia were from the Brains tribe, right? Like, when Tony and Sarah both came back, they both came back together, so like it's not even common that you get like a ton of examples of like this kind of a scenario even playing out at all. So
yeah,
I feel like not Cagayan, Second Chance. I feel like the way Second Chance came together, I feel like that season purposely ignored the relationships those players had with each other. Like
I don't know. I mean, Kelly, Keith, and Jeremy were working with each other on that first. Was it Hanapu? Was that the name of their tribe?
Keith and Jeremy was the big one where at times it felt like, and maybe this was because they straight up, I can imagine this is how they both treated each other, but there were times during that season where I thought that, I know Jeremy and Keith weren't like the closest on their original season, but there were times during second chance where I legitimately like thought that Keith and Jeremy just didn't want to talk to each other. And so maybe there's part of that too, where maybe sometimes these players return and whether they know it's going to be a detriment to their game or for whatever reason, they purposely try to avoid themselves. But like, I think like Tasha and Spencer played over 60 days together in total between Cagayan and Second Chance. And I feel like in Second Chance, we didn't get as much as them being as close as I would have thought that we would have gotten. And maybe once again, that was totally because that's how they wanted to play it. But I don't know. It would have been very cool to see Dave versus Goliath reunite again. I just never, ever got that impression from Christian that that's what he wanted to do. Where on the opposite, I imagine that's very much what Mike and Angelina especially wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to trust it when you're in the Mike or Angelina spot where like you were the successful one from the original season. Like it's, the Survivor PTSD is real, right? Like you can see it, multiple instances this season alone. Like the Christian basically spent his last like 3 rounds of David vs. Goliath, like fighting for his life against a contingency that was largely being run by Mike and Angelina. And so like it's going to be like difficult even years later if you've had like a relationship outside of the game with them to like fully trust that they won't like do the same. Like that's always going to be like a biting, like gnawing idea in the back of your head. Like, hey, like these are the people that got you the first time. Like they went out of their way multiple times in that season to try to get you out. Like, you know, they can do it again. Like, don't like, you know, you can't let your guard down. Like Christian was one of the main like people talking up Mike White's game after DVG. Like he was one of the people who voted for Mike to win and was like the strongest advocate for him in the jury, and said that he was like one of the like, you know, best players of like in recent years post that season. Like I think that Christian out of anyone is somebody who is not going to underestimate Mike as a player, and you kind of see that play out. So it's just a really tough spot to like expect kind of unwavering trust and loyalty from Christian in this kind of position.
Yeah, and I'm like, I guess a little surprised if he kind of thought that their friendship was gonna necessarily carry over to here, because it's like, I mean, did you explicitly have that conversation?
Yeah.
Or not, you know, because if you didn't, then, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of pre-gaming going on. And if you weren't pre-gaming before, then it probably wasn't going to happen just because you guys were friends, you know?
So his exact quote was, the question was, you seem surprised when it happened, him being voted out, and almost like you didn't know how to react. His response was, I obviously overestimated my friendship with Christian. A lot of the questions at Ponderosa before the game were like, you took him out, blah, blah, blah. And I knew that Christian was worried about being perceived as part of this trio or something that would hurt his game. But because we'd only been on the same tribe for like 2 days, once again, you have to remember, they've literally only been together, I think, 2 days at this point. 2 days. And we've had so many conversations over the years. I thought that maybe we would go back and play together. And I just didn't think I didn't think that he would do that. I still am kind of surprised, to be honest. And then Dalton followed up saying, you said you're overestimating your friendship with Christian. So what's your friendship like with him now? And he says, I haven't talked to him since. And is that because Christian, this is the undoing of Christian's game? Is this because Christian goes on to win it and, you know, Christian realizes it was the right move? Maybe he feels bad. I don't know. But it is. This is what I love about returning player seasons. My first time experiencing it. I love the behind the scenes and like the real life stuff that goes into it. Like I agree with Tyson, where Tyson says you should include all the talk that goes into pre-gaming and what has gone on behind the scenes since then when it comes to what is happening on the island, because it very much could have real effects on what is happening in the game. And I think that maybe that isn't totally what happened here, but clearly it is. And to your point, Christian was running for his life against a faction that was run by Mike and Angelina his entire season, a season that he was doing very well in, and a season that he was one of the favorites in. So it's complicated. Two things that it comes down to. I wish we started with 2 tribes so we didn't have to have this happen this early. And then 2, I wish we wouldn't tribe swap. I think that's probably 2 of my biggest complaints that come from this, is that I think when you have, and even though this, like I said, gave us a great 30 minutes last night, it gave us a great episode last week too. I know I wasn't here to talk about it. I thought last week was another great episode too. I think everything, even though the vote for Q was I felt pretty clear heading into Tribal. I still thought that everything was very entertaining, but I am very firm on, I don't want tribe swaps, and I want two tribes to start from beginning until we merge into that one at the end. If they do like that one rinky dink split where they go apart to 3 and then they merge, like I'm fine with that. But doing one this early, where every season you've had a disaster tribe that once they lose once, that's where they are the rest of the time. And I think that they basically admitted that when they voted out Q, that they're going to have problems in these challenges, and they kind of conceded that point. But I don't think it's very fun as a viewer to watch one tribe continue to struggle until finally it's time to come together, because you have players who are playing very well, whose games are completely undone just by that sole fact that they're switching things up just to switch things up. I think that Mike White and Christian are both people that we're seeing that happen to. that like they were in a very, very good spot before the merge or before the swap. And it's really kind of been completely undone because of just because they decided that it was time to do the swaps. I think that sucks because it's tough to get invested in early game relationship building when we know that this is gonna happen, and it's possible that this is very well going to happen one more time again before we get to an actual merge. So it is a bummer. It's something that we've been talking about for the entire new era to this point, and I think that is almost more of a root problem of what went on tonight rather than, the David versus Goliath and past issues, what happened there. I just think the David versus Goliath drama that came with it probably made this situation much better than it really could have been. Because I texted it, and I think most people thought it felt very clear to me that Angelina was the one that was going home, which with how much time we spent with Zach Brown. But it turns out it's because that this tribe was going back the entire time that was going to tribal, and they needed to fill whatever other time they needed to get those bills paid. Once again, I thought the Zach Brown stuff was fine. I thought it was fine. I think people are overreacting a little bit too.
I think
those fish were huge that he caught. That was great.
Yeah,
I would have been thrilled if someone got that big of a fish for me to eat on Survivor, especially when they haven't eaten at all.
Yeah, no, the reward was like a lot of fun for the people there. I think this is
more fun for them.
Yeah, it's like kind of my issue with a lot of like the Jeff production decisions in the new era, though, is a lot of experience the best for the players and for me as the host, as Jeff, as opposed to like what's going to make the game and the TV product the best for the like viewers. And this kind of felt like another example of that to me. But I think it would have been fine if it was just like 5 minutes. It just dragged on so much, like so repetitive at a certain point, and I didn't really get much out of it.
But you know what? It wasn't the worst part of the episode. The worst part was Genevieve finding her sex.
That he does, yeah. And so like stuff like that was great. I think somebody brought it up too. Didn't seem right that Aubrey was crying over potentially having Zach Brown come and visit, and I think that a lot of people thought that they were going to do something with like Make-A-Wish or have something that brought back old school type vibes for reward, which I think that would have been cool. As somebody that likes Zach Brown band, who very much did not, I guess I did not know for sure what Zach Brown looked like. He has aged probably quite a bit as we all have. I enjoyed the sequence for the most part. Did it go on too long? Yes. Did, kind of him becoming part of the game for a second a little weird? Yes. It also gave us some great quotes and confessionals from Colby and Coach, where I think like any time that we get to spend with them is awesome. As others have pointed out, we have people that we've seen there that we've got no confessionals from at all this season, which is like Tiffany's one. So it's like weird to have. I think Zach Brown now has probably more confessional time and airtime than Tiffany and some other players have this season.
Tiffany and Camilla, I think, are the two.
So that's a problem in of itself. But these things were bound to happen. I think it could have been much worse. I think people that are overreacting, saying it's the worst thing that's ever happened in Survivor and the worst episode that we've had in the new era, I think it's just we live in a culture where there always has to be two extremes for whatever reason, and it seems the majority are going to the extreme that this ruined the episode, which I completely disagree with. Like I really do. I think the last 30 minutes of this episode, people need to appreciate how good that was with the scrambling and kind of just like how that's shaping up the rest of the game. So I think that's all we really need to say about Zach Brown. But yeah, don't forget, we still have Jimmy Fallon apparently in some capacity coming up this season. I wonder if Jimmy Fallon will just be he'll be happen to be on the beach drinking beers, and he didn't realize that production was going on. And then we obviously have Mr. Beast, which is kind of like the biggest one they promoted. So I don't think we'll actually physically see Billie Eilish. I don't know if Billie Eilish even actually likes Survivor, but she is
not sure she's even aware her name's involved in this. To be honest,
I'm not either.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We got the like Jimmy Fallon reference. I don't know if like, I guess we'll see whether or not he's actually involved or if that was like a throwaway kind of joke from Christian. But like we definitely know Mr. Beast is involved. And that is definitely going to be some kind of advantage or game mechanic from what what it seemed from the previews, like the season preview. So that is like, I'm way more worried, I guess, about like that than this. Whereas like this had like essentially no game impact at all, and it was just kind of like a boring like 10 minutes of TV that like is not going to really extend beyond that like reward sequence in any meaningful capacity. Whereas like if we're going to get Mr. Beast showing up to introduce some kind of like wacky like game breaking twist or game mechanic, that could potentially be considerably worse. So like on the spectrum of like celebrity interference in the season, this is definitely towards the like less bad end for me.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's something that Survivor Production has come up with. Even though I don't love Survivor Production's twist, I've watched both seasons of Beast Games. Real bad game mechanics in both of them all over the place. So I don't trust Jimmy to come in here with a good idea.
Yeah.
That's his name.
It is, yes. Yeah.
Like Coach.
Jimmy Beast.
Jimmy Beast. Yeah.
We have confirmed that Mike White did not write season 4 of White Lotus before he was voted out. So could give us a really great season of TV coming up.
Main character dealing with the fallout of being betrayed by a friend.
Somebody posted, I didn't realize that Christian was in an episode of White Lotus in the background. Somebody already posted that HBO has made edits and it's Ozzy instead of Christian.
Yeah, maybe that's why Ozzy wanted him to stay longer, because he figured he'd get a better shot of being on White Lotus.
I think Ozzy is I think we all have agreed he's played much better so far this season than I think we thought he was going to up until this point. I don't know what the outlook for Ozzy really is after this, to be 100% honest with you. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, he's Ozzy. We know he's going to pout. He's going to take things very personal. And I think that personally, and he is, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know. We see that there's 2 tribes that are going to be going to tribal next week. Very surprised it took this long to get there, but I don't know if Ozzy survives that. Unfortunately, I think one of the ways Ozzy is going to survive is I think that Ozzy and Stephanie are together. But I think more so Stephanie is somebody that's going to want to vote with wherever the vote's going to keep it off of her. And so, but I imagine that she would be more drawn to Ozzy than she's going to end up being drawn to Christian and Emily. And Angelina, but I think Angelina is more so now kind of turned into a swing vote for those 2 factions rather than being the easy vote out next time they go. I like Ozzy's has to lure in Stephanie and Angelina and say, hey, let's get revenge for Mike. Or it's going to be the situation where Emily, this is going to be, I think Emily makes out great out of all this, because I don't see a situation where Emily's voted out next week. And I also think that Emily, Emily looks good to Ozzy, looks good, even though Ozzy, she can say that I tried to tell you, Ozzy, I tried to tell you, and they quickly brushed it off. Emily looks good there. I think that Emily takes none of the heat for this, which she shouldn't, because it wasn't her brainchild. But I think that Ozzy, it's going to be Ozzy versus Christian is my assumption, right? Unless they somehow divine intervention do not go back to tribal next week. And I don't know if what Ozzy can do in that situation, except for just pulling Stephanie and Angelina. Because if Emily flips, then that's a huge egg on Christian's face and proves that Mike White was right, and maybe that's why he hasn't talked to Mike since.
Well, he doesn't know Idol, so like he's that's for sure going to help him.
Yep, that is another good part.
I agree that Emily is like definitely sitting the most pretty on this track, which is why I think that she's playing the best, right? Like you could, we could quibble, I guess, over like the level of deliberateness of the things that she's doing. But like just from a pure positional gameplay perspective, I just think she's just clearly in the best position, and she was even in the best position coming into this, which is why I think the Q vote the time before was correct. And like the fact that she was like even remotely in danger at all this episode was like kind of like really, like it took a lot for her to even be in danger at all. And it took kind of Mike going out on a limb for Angelina and specifically like picking her as a target, which I think was like correct on paper for him to want to do. Like, I think it was a smart play for Mike.
I agree.
I think that he didn't play it great with Christian in terms of getting Christian on board. But it's really the reasons that I've kind of set out earlier are why like I'm super high on Emily, despite the show kind of like clowning on her a bit. Because like I've always been like somebody who favors positional gameplay like over like kind of like flashy kind of control, because if you're in the best position and you have the relationships, you kind of are the one exerting control, even if you're not the one who looks like you are. Because somebody like Christian right now is the one who looks like he's been in control throughout the season, and he has to a degree in terms of deciding who goes home. But like his runway is kind of quickly running out at this point. And you really do not want your runway to be running out when there are 19 people left in the game.
What do you think? What do you think overall was the right move for Christian here?
I think that I think that honestly they should have got rid of Stephanie. That's probably like the best thing that he could have done. He could have gone to Mike and been like, look, I really want to work with you guys, but like I cannot do Emily right now. It's gonna look so bad for my allies and the other tribes if we have another swap or if we have an early merge. I want to be able to work with you guys with them so that we can form a larger group. Let's just vote out Stephanie here. It's simple. It's easy. The three of us will have a majority, and then we can have this conversation again if we go to tribal council next time, right? You're basically kind of just kicking the can down the road. And if you do go back to tribal council, now he's firmly the swing vote, and he can decide to go with Ozzy and Emily or decide to go with Mike and Angelina. He gets an extra round of reprieve. If he wants to flip on them next time, now Ozzy and Emily basically have way fewer options to make a play on him. It's a lot cleaner. It doesn't piss off Ozzy. Like, there's just so many like positives to just kind of like cleanly getting rid of Stephanie here. But I don't know if that was on the table. I don't know if like maybe Mike is just like really stubborn and didn't go for that, or if Christian didn't even try to like pitch something like that, then I don't know.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that is even if I didn't know the answer to that question necessarily when I asked it, but I think you just said exactly probably what he should have done, and that's what I wonder. I really do wonder if there was like Christian just did not have love for them, like we would assume, right? Just like to assume everybody from Dave vs. Goliath is all buddy and everybody loves each other, but clearly it's more isolated towards Mike White, and I don't know if Mike White and Nick are still friends, but Angelina and Mike White are obviously very much still friends. Yeah, that's. I think you said it's the only right answer to that, because I think that him voting out Mike is going to have the problems that we've laid out, where now he's isolated himself on that tribe with Emily, who is already is kind of ruining his game in some capacity, and then I think voting out Angelina kind of causes issue with him and Mike. I think that if Christian's going to win this season, we're going to go back and look at this episode and the next episode and how he's able to navigate his way out of it, because I'm not necessarily worried Christian's going to go home next week, but I am significantly more worried now than I was before this episode started. And I think that I think that you brought up a good point too, is that just because Mike White was showing flashes of why Mike White is so great does not mean the things that he did in this episode were the right things to do for his gameplay, and the way that he presented the Gabby situation to Christian was the right thing to do. Like his quote says, he thought maybe him and Christian were better friends. Maybe it was more of a friend moment in his mind, but I think Mike. I think Mike could have done. I still think that maybe potentially Mike just letting Angelina be the sacrifice was the right move for his gameplay, but at the same time, maybe Mike was that loyal to Angelina, and he knew that it was better overall for him to have that really strong alliance. Because I find it much more believable Mike would vote out Angelina than Angelina will want to vote out Mike based on the things that we've seen with it. I mean, Angelina has been a ghost up until this past 90 minutes of Survivor, whereas Mike was playing a very, very good game from what we saw. So I think that's why the final 30 minutes were so good, because I think it adds so much more intrigue to where we're going to be heading into next week. Because typically when we go into a double tribal episode on previous seasons, we roll our eyes. We're like, oh, here we go. There's some sort of tomfoolery is going to be going on. Where now, I think that there's like a very rare. It adds a whole nother level of investment into challenges, into immunity challenges. Because I am going to be the first time that Coach goes to tribal. My brother said it best. I'm going to be sick to my stomach, and that is 100% true. That the very first time Coach goes to tribal, if he does not have an immunity idol, I am going to be petrified, sick to my stomach. Whereas on the other side, too, with Christian, I love Christian. Christian is easily my second favorite player in this season right now, because I think that we've obviously spent the most time with him, but I think everything we've gotten from Christian shows why he's such a genuine player. He's such a likable person, and he's not somebody I want to go, and he's somebody I want to go far. Like if Coach can't win, I want Christian to win. And it just so happens that both of them are on my team too in this league also. Which, by the way, Brian, very sorry that you had a 1 out of 5 chance in going here. I had a 4 out of 5 chance in going.
He had a 2 out of 6. He had Stephanie as well.
Oh, you have Stephanie too. Okay, so you got a 2 out of 6.
Chance of losing somebody based
I
on
had a 4 out of 6, and it was still you, Brian. So I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, I have none of my team on this disaster drive, so I'm very happy about that.
Very lucky for you. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at my team: Jenna Lewis gone, Chrissy dead in the water, Steph not that great, Charlie will probably get taken out as a threat, Camilla maybe, Sari maybe, Mike White gone, T. I guess I got the consolation prize of my winner lasted the longest thanks to Kyle's Achilles exploding.
Yeah.
So I will eventually put together a scoring chart so we can start keeping track of who. Clearly Ben is winning, even though he wouldn't have points.
Right.
So it's kind of like that's how nuanced this league of ours is. Yeah, let's recap. So Ben has still has Genevieve, he has Tiffany, he has Colby, he has Aubrey, he has Jonathan, he has Rick, he has RIZGOD, and obviously he lost Kyle to a Medivac. I have Coach, I have Emily, I lost Q last week, I have Christian, I lost Savannah 2 weeks ago, I have Angelina, I have Joe, and I have Ozzy, which all of them were in a much better spot 2 weeks ago than they are right now. And then Brian, like you said, you have Jenna, we have Chrissy, you have Stephanie, you have Charlie, you have Camilla, you have Suri, Mike White, who is gone, and you have D.
Yeah, which I mean, look, I actually think Dee's playing really well. I just am worried because she's a winner. People might turn on her early merge. But, I don't think my team's going to be the winning team if I had to guess at this point. It's just a lot of bad stuff happening.
I feel very confident I have the winner on my team. So we need to figure out how much points the winner gets, because I might have the winner on my team, but I don't know how the majority of my team will be standing when we get the merge. Right. But I guess we'll see. One thing I did want to bring up before we go, though, because you quickly touched on it, I think the Aubrey Genevieve situation is kind of like more of the same of what we get, and they clearly don't like each other or trust each other. It's going to pay off in some sort of capacity, I hope / assume. Aubrey now has an idol. Genevieve has found 2 idols who she's had to give away. Gave away her idol to the RIZGOD in this episode. And then the other one was that's the one that Ozzy got, was Genevieve to Ozzy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's more to come there. I don't think it's really too much to have to touch on in this episode unless you guys want to.
Well, I guess we can just say of the 3 tribes, I think that Coach's tribe will probably win immunity.
Yeah.
I think you're probably safe for another week, Dylan, there. And we're going to finally get to see Charlie versus Riz God go down.
Yeah, that feels like what is being set up to me as well. It felt like the Genevieve Aubrey situation feels like it might not play out until the merge. That's kind of the vibe I've started to get. I don't think it's gonna. I think they're gonna win. I think that we are gonna see Charlie versus Rizzo next week, which is good because it's like something new. We get to see 5 new people finally go to tribal council.
Which is I think we've spent obviously a lot of time with Christian and his tribe and Christian's story and everything going on there. I think and Ozzy, Ozzy's kind of been the other main one we've stuck with for most of the season to this point. The small stories that we have with like Aubrey and Genevieve, and I think now this Charlie and Rizgod. I don't think I went into this season assuming that Charlie and well, it seems like one-sided at the moment. Even though we have the Operation Bad Blood coming up next week, I think that it's very unfortunate Charlie and the RIZGOD are going at each other because it's almost what Charlie and I think it's great. It's why I love a returning player season. I love that Charlie still is holding a grudge about what happened with Maria and all that. It's real emotion. He's upset at Rizzo for something that wasn't even true, technically. Like Rizzo voted for his number one. If you're telling me, I don't buy that Sophie or Soph was Rizzo's number one over Savannah. That's just not true at all. That's a whole different episode. Maybe they are now. They're all best friends now. But he did vote for his number one. I wonder if he finds that out. I don't mean like they have a nice moment and we just have Christian Stripe going back to tribal again next week. Maybe that's the narrative we're going to get.
I don't know. Well, here's like a thing that I just kind of thought through with like the Operation Bad Blood thing. What if that's like because like obviously we're being shown that in the preview to like the natural thing to think is Rizzo or Charlie tries to make a move on Rizzo. Rizzo finds out, realizes that Charlie has a feud against him and is trying to take him out. And then Operation Bad Blood is like Rizzo's counterinsurgency to get Charlie out instead. What if instead Operation Bad Blood is some fake plan that Charlie is concocting with Rizzo as like a fake ally to like try to help blindside him and like maybe like a Suri as a target or something like that, but like that's a fake plan. And then Rizzo gets blindsided with the idol. Genevieve gets the idol back, and then when that tribe goes to tribal council in 2 or 3 weeks. Now Genevieve has a way to protect herself from Aubrey's idol, and like Tiffany gets voted out or something like that.
It's that would be fun. A little like I honestly I completely forget the intricacies of what Operation Italy was. To be honest, I just remember it being a lot of fun. So if we get something along those lines, like a well thought out, we get RIZGOD kind of with like thought clouds in his mind, like we did with Operation Italy. I think that would be pretty fun. I don't like the Christian versus Rizgod in terms of like they're two players I like that I want to go far, but at the same time, it is very funny. And I think the Vietnam flashbacks we got for Charlie last week was very, very funny and very well done. So I hope it's not the undoing of Charlie, because if it is and I hope it's not the undoing of Rizzo, but if it's the undoing of Charlie, that's a very, very unfortunate storyline. That's like a tragic story of like he's still scarred from the things that happened to him in his first season, from Maria completely just like betraying him, stabbing in the back, literally taking $1 million away from him. That's a very sad ending to Charlie's story. And I would really hope we see him again if that's what plays out. I don't know. Rizzo has an idol. Does he play stupidly and think he doesn't have to play it? And finally, because he's playing with players that are actually good at the game, he gets completely blindsided, and Genevieve gets her idol back. That would be good for a whole different reason. Well, it would not be good for. It would be very good for Ben's team.
Well, Rizzo is also on my team, so I mean, he would technically be finishing. He would be finishing, I think, about where I think he'd be finishing exactly where I drafted him, right? Because I drafted him 6th from the end. He'd be going out 6th, so. He would be getting the value that I got from that draft, I guess, and it would be giving my number 1 draft pick an idol. So maybe it's worth.
It would also be a very, very, very good thing to happen for your number 1 overall pick too, if that happens. So we'll see. We've seen before previews and trailers that it's all smoke and mirrors, and what we get is something completely different than what we thought we were going to get, which sometimes is better. The Rizzo and Charlie thing, I think if it does come down to that, it'll be nice to get away from Christian and Emily and Ozzy and Angelina. I think it will be nice to get away from them, to have time, because we have not had as much time with the players that I think we want to have time with than we've had this season. And it comes down to the three tribes. It comes down to you having a disaster tribe throughout the season up to merge. I think that's a real problem. We should be having more time with Coach. We should be having more time with Suri. We should be having more time with Colby. Like, we need more of that time. And then there's the other players too, like the Charlies, like the Rizzos, that I want to be spending more time with outside of like the silly, goofy talent show. Like, we need more. And I understand that's why people with the Zach Brown stuff, why they're upset, because we could have spent that 20 minutes elsewhere. And so I do hope we start getting more of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see. Like you said, Dylan, not as down on this episode as other people, but I'm certainly very excited to get back to perhaps no celebrity cameos in the next episode.
I'm still incredibly high in this season. I feel like people talk about just like this episode being that bad. It's not that. It was not even remotely close. I think that this season has given us like really good Survivor to this point. And it's like, is this an episode I'm probably going to rewatch? No, I'll rewatch the final 30 minutes like I did before we hopped on to do this. But we need those bridge episodes. This was a bridge episode to get us the furthest along in Christian's story and Emily's story. And so it was fun. This has still been a very good season of Survivor. And I am very happy that we're able to watch it.
Yeah, for me, it's just like I said, episode so far been like a 9, an 8, and then like a 6. But like for me, like the last 30 minutes of the episode, like even like extended out. I don't know when the reward segments kind of like wrapped up, but like whenever that was, like 30, 40 minutes out from the end, like that to me was like the most compelling like half hour of the season so far. So like to me, like the episode had probably the lowest low so far for the season. It also had the highest highs, and I think that like we're really kind of set up for interesting stuff going forward. So yeah, like probably the weakest episode, but like the other 3 episodes were really strong. So it would be hard to keep up the momentum every single episode. Yeah, but I don't see it like being a trend downward. It seems like probably just like a minor speed bump.
Agreed. All right, Dylan, anything you want to promote before we get on out of here?
No, promote the show, Survivor. Stick around.
Survivor.
I heavily contemplated going to the Ben Katzman coach show that is going to be in Boston next Friday. They sold out the venue in Boston, then they moved it to a venue that I have heard is less than great when it comes to shows like that. So the prices are very fair. It's like $30 for a high top table. So I'm on the fence about that. If I do that, I will potentially be preparing myself to meet Coach, which I don't know if Coach shows up with security around him, because I know the meet and greet is with Ben. I don't know if Coach is there. And like the expectation is like Charlie's going to be there. So it's fun for that reason. So if I do that, I will be making a video, and very, very hopefully if I do that, I will be connecting with Coach in some capacity. I think that would pretty much complete my Survivor journey in life. Like I really don't have much to go off of after that. So stay tuned for that. But no, check out the channel. I think that once again, this season has been very, very big for us. It's been a lot of fun to talk about. We've been leading up to this. We are now going on 5 years, right? We're over 100 episodes of this podcast. So we're having new friends tune in, which was great. Shout out Matthias for joining. I think that was awesome. And so we just keep the train moving forward. But please just keep following, keep listening, keep comment things that are appropriate. But I think fucking Zach Brown advertisement episode is perfectly appropriate. It's some other things we've had to remove, but I think this has been a lot of fun, and we're not even halfway through the season yet. So we have a lot of Survivor left to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely by far and away our best like numbers wise on Spotify and everything this season. And we really do appreciate that, because, we're just three guys talking about a show we like, not really, professionals or anything like that. But we're glad that people seem to be enjoying it and seem to be coming back to it each week, which, feels nice, definitely. So, yeah, Ben, anything you want to promote or plug?
No, yeah, I mean, it's good to have this podcast because it, the years and years, decades of knowledge of the show that I've gotten over the years. It's good to pretend like it has some kind of value to the world. But no, I'm really enjoying it for sure. And then just reality TV in general, like I mentioned before, it's so back. I'm really enjoying House of Villains season 3. I'm still really enjoying Extracted season 2, which is like way better of a show than it has any business being again. So yeah, just loving it. Very excited for the rest of the season. So yeah, come back.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We will see
Shout out
you
Brian Wong.
in the
Shout out
next
Brian
one.
Wong.
Shout out.
I didn't forget Brian Wong. Shout out Brian Wong.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry. We almost lost it there, but so shout out Brian. And yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.